San Francisco is on the verge of being the first city to successfully remove black people legally.
In 1932, in Forest City, Arkansas, a lady would be born by the name of Dorothy Lathan. Like many people in the South at that time, there was little opportunity in Arkansas. Being a former Jim Crow state, they had to leave. And although Missouri was quite racist itself, it offered more opportunity. So she and her family moved to St. Louis, Missouri. Despite having a little bit of money, she ended up at Lincoln University. And in her freshman year, she would end up meeting her husband, Arthur Lathan. They would get married, have a family, and he would join the military. He would get reassigned to the city of San Francisco, and both of them fell in love with the city.
Here they have pastel colored houses, beige and blue and yellow. I just thought they were so beautiful. Then you get on the streetcar and go to the zoo.
Some things we expect to change.
My rent was $39 a month because my husband was in service. And when he got out of service, the rent went up to $69 a month.
Now, Dorothy Lathan, who at the time of this video was 90 years old, was talking about how much she loved the city of San Francisco. The boxcars, the vibrancy of the city, and of course, the low rent. At first, it was $39, but after he got out, it was $69. That is pretty cheap from what we know about San Francisco. But then she would mention something else.
You can go all day long and not see a black person in the bank, in the grocery store, on the streets. There's hardly any black presence in this city. But then there was. We had the Fillmore, we had Hunters Point, we had Ingleside.
Now, Dorothy Lathan, who at that time was 90 years old, mentioned something that's very important. There are no longer a lot of blacks in the city. And she mentioned some black strongholds, Fillmore District, Hunters Point. She talked about Ingleside, which also has Lakeview. But there are hardly any blacks in the city. Why? By the time 1949 came around, then President Harry Truman signed what is now known as the American Housing Act, and it destroyed many areas considered to be slums across the nation. And that also considered certain neighborhoods in San Francisco. And remember, the Fillmore District had a lot of blacks, but a lot of the projects that were in the Fillmore District would end up being destroyed, displacing 20,000 black Americans. And what would the result of that be?
Then right behind that, they started closing up the housing projects. And then San Francisco became so expensive and valuable, they started offering people huge amounts of money to sell their property.
According to Bay Area census data, black people made up about 10% of San Francisco's population in 1960, 13% in 1970. It's 5% today.
Mrs. Lathan will go on to say, San Francisco became so valuable at this time. They were offering up a whole lot of money for people to sell their houses. And as you saw, the statistics that the Bay Area saw a rapid decline of blacks in the city. By the time 2005 came, the entire Bay Area was down to 5%. Now, I could tell you, being from Sacramento, that while the Bay Area's black population was decreasing, the Sacramento Valley was increasing. Not only Sacramento Valley, but places like Stockton, California, because it was just too expensive to stay in places like Oakland or in San Francisco. And you could buy a house in Sacramento for about half the price, and you could transfer or make the same amount of money in the state's capital, Sacramento. So a lot of people from the San Francisco Bay Area came right down to Sacramento and started to enjoy a better life. But not everybody was able to leave San Francisco. Some people had to stay. Now, this is interesting because the city of San Francisco is looked at as being a very liberal place, very welcoming. I mean, think about San Francisco. We know San Francisco as being, the gay capital, and it's kind of hard to consider yourself to be a place where the LGBTQ could thrive, but also being a place that discriminates against black Americans. But did that happen?
This historic resolution apologizes on behalf of San Francisco to the African American community and their descendants for decades of systemic and structural discrimination, targeted acts of violence, atrocities, as well as committing to the rectification and redress of past policies and misdeeds. We have much more work to do, but this apology most certainly is an important step.
You heard that apology, and this apology was supposed to have some level of reparations attached to it. Some people even said that the city of San Francisco was thinking about offering $5 million per resident. Let's look at how San Francisco discriminated against the black community while at the same time elevating the gay community. The first thing that we saw was housing and redlining. We talked about what that did, pushing blacks into what you call slums, okay, and public housing projects in which the government would then take it down. Let's talk about urban renewal and displacement. I talked about how Fillmore was destroyed, but they tried to redevelop it. It was then redeveloped, but then what happened? Well, the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency labeled it as blighted and launched massive clearance projects again. Blacks again were displaced and hundreds of black-owned businesses were destroyed. Now, promises of affordable housing were talked about but never fully materialized, and much of the land was turned over to developers for middle-class housing and offices. What about employment and discrimination? During World War II, many black migrants came for shipyard work in the Bay Area. After the war, union discrimination and racist hiring practices meant black workers were often the first fired and the last rehired. San Francisco's black unemployment rate stayed consistently higher than whites throughout the 20th century. Over policing and criminalization, we all know that happened in almost every part of the country, but that included San Francisco, especially Fillmore, Bayview, and Hunters Point. Now, of course, if you have underfunded areas, your education will suffer, the same as anywhere in the country. So you'll have schools in Fillmore, Bayview, and Hunters Point in certain parts of Ingleside that won't have the same level of funding or equality as some of the other neighborhoods. So what do you get? De facto segregation, fewer resources, poor facilities, and higher teacher turnover. But again, let's look at San Francisco. On the outside looking in, it is looked at as a beacon of hope. A lot of tech startups are there, a lot of liberal policies are there, and you would think that racism is nowhere in the city, right?
San Francisco is on the verge of being the first city to successfully remove black people legally. You understand what I'm saying? They did it in a very passive aggressive way. They did it with a smile on their faces. And this is why I'm bipartisan. I'm for whatever is right. I don't care if it's a Democrat, a Republican, a liberal, a Green Party. Whatever is right is what I'm with. Because for years, for decades, people have said, oh, they for the people, they for the people. And I'm not talking about the administration that's there right now. I'm talking about dating back to the 90s. Come to the city, come to San Francisco. It's liberal. They like black people. They like black people. Then why they getting rid of all the black people? You understand what I'm saying? Racism, that's an understatement. So in San Francisco, they don't serve you racism with a hard ER. They serve you racism with a, hey, what's up, bro?
Now, this particular man is speaking nothing but facts. He's talking about that, you don't see the racism that's just blatantly out there because the racists don't have, Ku Klux Klan sheets. Nah, these are the people saying, what's up, bro? And what he's talking about are white liberals who are basically, in black spaces, Democrats most likely, because he even says he's bipartisan. He just wants somebody that cares about the black community. But these are the whites who are pretending to be your friends, but he's saying blacks are being pushed out of the city. So if you really my friend, then why are we being pushed out of the city? But wait, he says something that's very interesting.
Once upon a time, we had a white population of hippies. They was going crazy. They was waking it up. You feel me? They was vibing with us. They was the ones that was really genuinely happy to see us here and building with us. But what they did is they had all these outsiders come from I don't know where. They brought their racism with them, bro, and they infiltrated every space in the city, from cannabis to politics to businesses. Everything that you can think of, education, they bring their racism, they amped it up. This is one of the most racist cities to be in, hands down.
He said there were a time where you did have whites that cared about the issues of blacks, and they were actually building with the blacks. He's talking about, the idea of hippies that happened like in the late 60s and 70s. And again, I don't know very much about the hippies working with blacks, but I do know that hippies were cool and they did, smoke weed and stuff like that. But he's basically saying that the same people who are acting like they really care about blacks are getting them out of the city. And if you look at what's going on in the nation right now, that seems to be the same story we're hearing everywhere. Look at where everybody's going back to right now. I mean, a lot of the blacks that can't stay in Cali, where are they going to? Texas, Georgia, back to the South, Well, that's kind of where they're going to, right? I mean, you're even looking at certain states like Mississippi. If I'm not mistaken, Mississippi is not going to even have any state income tax, basically trying to capitalize on that black talent coming back out west and coming back down south. And if you can look at any map of where black Americans are at heavily, well, like I said, you're going to see the South because of slavery, and now because of the migrations toward the South. And again, Democrats, they continue to show black people that they don't really want you in these cities. They don't. Most of these cities are being replaced by immigrants. You're seeing the same thing in New York City. You're seeing definitely the same thing in Los Angeles. You're seeing the same thing in Chicago. Like, at what point do they gotta keep showing you that they don't want you there? They say that, oh, it's the black and brown this, and oh, we gotta stand up for our rights of the Hispanics and stand up for the rights of the gay community. Anything else but standing up for the rights of you. And then whenever they talk about doing something for you, again, those things are slow to happen, like affordable housing. We talk about Cabrini Green in Chicago. That was the same situation there. Like, okay, we're gonna bring these closed housing projects and the resources back into the black community of Chicago. Did it ever happen? Nope, it never happened, and it was never supposed to happen. The same thing about Fillmore District. The same story. Hey, we're gonna bring this, this affordable housing back to the community. Does it happen? No. But when the migrant crisis comes out, then all of a sudden now they got the money to, in Chicago, we can go ahead and refurbish these homes. In New York City, we can go ahead and refurbish these homes. They can do it all day when it fits their Democratic agenda. But when it comes to the black agenda, all of a sudden we don't got it for you. And black people just need to understand that. How is it that the political party that's supposed to love black people are doing all the policing and criminalization? I know people could complain about what's going on with Donald Trump and the National Guard in DC right now, but historically, a lot of the stop and frisk policies have been Democrats themselves doing it, all right? Some of the most harshest laws on the book against black criminality come from Democrats themselves. So I just don't get it why black people just don't see the light. It's the same play everywhere in every major city in America. When are we all gonna wake up? So guys, what do you think? It's your boy Yoshi Dude Jackson back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I appreciate you for all you do. Subscribe to the bell. We out.